Hello, everyone, and welcome to session 7 of the Level 1 Crypto Advisor Certification course. Today, we are going to be focusing on understanding non-fungible tokens, NFTs. You probably have heard a lot about that and are very curious. So before we begin, I just want to let everybody know, because we always get questions about this. I'm making the slides available right now in the handout section that you'll see to the right of your screen. So those are available for download for you all. For those of you who this is your first time, I'm your moderator. My name is Dara Albright, co-founder of DWealth Education, which is a new EdTech platform dedicated to providing incentivized learning to financial professionals, business executives, and modern day investors. Today's distinguished presenter is Jahan Jamali. He's the co-founder and CMO of Sarson Funds. Jahan, who many of you know from our previous sessions, is a former intelligence officer and leading expert on emerging technologies, global risk management, and international relations. He's a renowned cryptocurrency educator and is routinely sought by the media to talk about this intersection of cryptocurrency, blockchain technology, and security. So before I hand over the mic to you, Jahan, just a couple of housekeeping items. One, so you all know this webinar will last 1 hour. There will be 50 minutes of presentation time plus 10 minutes of Q&A. Feel free to put all of your questions into the chat as they come to you. Just know we won't be answering them until the last 10 minutes. For the most part. And please, when you just make sure to put a question mark next to your questions, because that really helps us distinguish between what's a question or just a comment. So that would be helpful. And, the chat, please weigh in on the conversation, but, please keep it, the topic relevant, comments relevant to the conversation, no advertising or anything like that. Also, as a reminder, Investment and Wealth Institute has accepted this webinar for 1 hour of CE credit towards the CIMA, CPWA, CIMC, and RMA certifications. Now, regardless of whether any of you have those certifications or not, if you complete this entire 8-part program, you will earn a Level 1 Crypto Advisor certification from Sarson Funds, and that will demonstrate your cryptocurrency and digital asset expertise, and that completion certificate will come in the form of an NFT. So it's a good thing that you're on this webinar today learning about that. Truthfully, though, the NFT issued certification is something really groundbreaking in the space, and I encourage everyone to learn more about that as well. So before we jump in and I hand over the mic to Jahan, I just want to start with the first poll, because that'll help as we're sort of going through the presentation today. And first one coming out is the poll's going to be on to your right side as well. And the question is, do you own any NFTs?
All right, Dara. Well, I see the answers coming in, and thank you very much for the kind introduction. Welcome, everybody. I've been looking forward to this session. For those of you returning, thank you. It's good to see you again. Happy almost holidays, and I hope everyone's doing well. For those that are new, welcome. I've been really looking forward to this. NFTs are one of my favorite topics, and I kept the slides not too long because I'm probably going to talk a lot, so you just might have to bear with me. But that being said, I want you to be as liberal as possible with the questions. I love answering questions about NFTs. So let me walk you through what we're going to go over today. And for those of you that are new to my sessions, let me just give you the caveat. We've got a wide range of folks in the audience. We have some folks that really know crypto. We have a lot of folks that it's completely brand new to them. So I try to keep it at a high level to start, and I fine tune it along the way depending on the types of questions I get. But my big thing is accessibility. I want people to understand it, to feel that it's accessible and digestible, and I don't want to go right into a lot of details that might kind of brush past you or go over someone's head that's not really familiar with the digital asset space. So that's that's my caveat on how I structure the conversation. But as we go through, feel free, like I said, add a question mark to your comments in the chat box, and we're going to take it from there. Derek, can I just ask you to go on mute because I'm hearing a little bit of feedback? But let me go over what we're going to be talking about today in our session. All right. So first of all, what is a non-fungible token? All right, I'm going to answer that question as best I can in as clear a way as possible. We're going to talk about what they're good for, why they exist. We're going to talk about the NFT market itself, growth in the market, and some trends in the market. We're going to talk about how to buy an NFT. Taking a look at the poll answers here, and it seems like most of you don't own one. So if you take all 8 sessions, you're definitely going to get one. So that will remedy that. But if you want to take a look and start navigating some of the marketplaces out there, I'm going to help you do that and show you how the mechanics of buying an NFT work. It's a little bit different than buying, getting into some additional digital assets, let's say on Coinbase or any other type of exchange or wallet that you might have for your crypto. I'm going to go over use cases. I have news for you all. These aren't just JPEGs, and I'm going to tell you why. And we're going to go over a wide range of use cases for NFTs. And this is the use case area is really part of why I'm passionate about it. About 2.5, 3 years ago, I was having a conversation with a friend of mine. Our kids go to school together, and he happens to be in the C-suite over at Circle. And we were chatting about, all right, what's it going to take to get wide scale adoption? And my belief has always been it's going to be through NFTs. And it took him by surprise a little bit. But I think once I get into some of the use cases, you'll start to understand why NFTs have the potential to really be a pathway for large scale or larger scale consumer and retail adoption of digital assets in general. We're going to talk about risks. All right. Crypto is new. NFTs are newer. All right. With any nascent space, there's going to be a good amount of risk involved. So I want to walk you through how to avoid it, how to spot scams. It's a little bit different. And we're going to talk about reporting requirements too. I have bad news. You got to pay taxes if you make a gain. Shocking to you all. But we're going to talk about some of the reporting and tax requirements and a little bit of the regulatory landscape. If you think that the regulators are just figuring out crypto, they're really, they're just learning about NFTs, really, so to speak. But it's coming, so I want to do what I can to help you all get prepared. Then we're going to get into some real theoretical stuff, and we're going to talk about what's next for NFTs. And this is where I get kind of excited because I'm sure you guys have all heard this concept called the metaverse. Well, I've been all about the metaverse since the mid-'90s. And if you guys haven't read Snow Crash by Neal Stephenson, I highly suggest you put it on your holiday reading list. It's where that book is where the term metaverse was first coined. And it's a science fiction book. I totally geek out on that stuff, but it's fascinating, and it'll start to give you a little bit of insight as to some of the things that we're seeing now. The book, by the way, if Darren, you want to put it in there, I'll type it in right now. It's Snow Crash, and it's by Neal Stephenson. You can find it on Amazon. But I definitely suggest it, as well as if you want to also get a secondary book, check out Ready Player One. All right, book's better than the movie as always, unless you're a Harrison Ford fan. But all right, let's get into it right away. All right, so what is an NFT? A non-fungible token. All right, a non-fungible token. It's a digital asset that can represent a lot of different things. It can represent a real-world object. It can represent a digital object. It can represent a certification. A piece of art, but they are cryptographically unique tokens. All right. So if I have a Bitcoin, I can exchange it for another Bitcoin. All right. That's fungible. But NFTs are all unique. And they, like I said, they can be linked to a digital item, but they can also be linked to a physical item as well. But the most important thing they do is they immutably prove ownership of that object. All right. So they can represent anything from not just a piece of art, digital art, but they can be your certificate of authenticity. They can also serve as as the identifier for a particular event, like a ticket. And we're going to talk about tickets a little bit later on. but they utilize smart contracts, and that's where the unique attributes of the NFT are stored, is on a smart contract. And for those of you that are really into the nitty gritty of smart contracts, Ethereum was sort of the birthplace of NFTs, and Ethereum really still has the lion's share of the NFT market, but they can be produced on other smart contract platforms. The NFT world has expanded considerably. Solana has a pretty healthy NFT ecosystem. There's some on Neo, Tezos, Wax, Tron. They all support non-fungible tokens. So it's a smart contract that identifies you or the owner as the owner, tied to a wallet address, and they're all unique, and that unique identifying information is stored on a blockchain. One of the important things too that I want to bring up, and we're going to talk about a little bit later on, is because they're unique. And NFT collections, from an artist or creator, can come in a variety of different forms. They can be a large scale collection where there's 10,000 of them, or there can be just a one of one. But what it does, because it's unique, and because your ownership is validated on the blockchain, it creates digital scarcity. All right. I am sure there are people in this chat that collected baseball cards. I had a ton of, I was a basketball card guy, and I had tons of them. So if you understand why something is unique and why unique attributes matter in that type of market, then there's a lot of parallels here. In some collections, it's one picture with a variety of variations, and those variations come, provide elements of rarity into the collection. Maybe some have a particular border, or maybe some variations that are visual also come with a distinct set of utilities as a result of owning that NFT. And we'll talk about utilities here in a little bit. But what NFTs have done is they've really empowered the concept of the digital collectible. Now, this is really where I get into why NFTs serve as a potential pathway for large-scale adoption. The base layer logic of NFTs has actually been around for a while, and it's actually been around longer than blockchain. Let me explain to you why. Brands, companies, and businesses for years and years have been increasingly become reliant and increasingly focused on capturing their community. All right, celebrities, even retail stores. Think of your old school consumer rewards program. All right, it started off as maybe like one of the little cards you used to get at Subway, where you had the card. You buy 4 subs, you get the 5th one free. Right. Then it evolved a little bit more to something, things that are more robust, because brands and companies found value in retaining their community and being able to have a touch point with their community, like your CVS card. Right. Your CVS card, there's already value that's being unlocked because you're a member. CVS finds value in having you participate and coming back for discounts. And there's value expressed back to you in the form of 36 miles worth of receipts. Now, that's not a very effective way, but all of those types of consumer rewards programs and memberships and clubs that are all tied to retail and economic activity, NFTs are the next step beyond that, if you want to think about it like that. More so than just the art and the collectible aspect, is that it's a way for creators, brands, groups, artists to connect with their fan base and provide different types of value that can move back and forth. So, holders of physical art too are now starting to realize that NFTs, have a significant amount of potential. And, rather than having a certificate of authenticity, which can be forged. I don't know if you guys are familiar with the art world, but forgery is a big issue, and it cuts into the bottom line. So, having a certificate of ownership indicated and recorded on the blockchain can help close that gap. And, not only can the physical items that the NFT is tied to be displayed, but if it's a digital piece of work, those can also, be displayed either in a metaverse showcase or an actual real world showcase. There's also a concept of fractionalization that's available in NFTs. Let me provide you an example. Now, if you own the Mona Lisa, but you could fractionalize ownership of it. Now, I'm not saying everyone's going to get a piece of the cut up Mona Lisa, but if you take that value and unlock it, you can create an enormous amount of liquidity. Now, celebrities are realizing this with access to themselves and access to their brands, and they're starting to fractionalize ownership and have their fans participate in some of the ways in which they make money. And the participation is then recorded and value distributed on the blockchain. So it's a new way for gaming, for music, and art, to unlock value and really create immutably interconnected communities around those different markets. And we're going to talk about gaming a little bit independently as we get towards the end, because it has a lot of implications in this concept I'm sure you guys have all heard called the metaverse. All right. NFT market has exploded. And this is from a recent DappRadar report, which just came out the other day, which tied in a bunch of, and I got a few charts from the report, so that was really good, that tied in some numbers from the end of Q3. Now, as you can see, it's an enormous growth trajectory in NFTs. And if you've been catching the news as well, there's a variety of large-scale brands that have been getting into it more and more. The NBA was into it in a program called Top Shot, which was effectively like digital trading cards, which you could own a piece of a highlight or or a card itself that was represented digitally. But now we have brands like Adidas, and we have fashion brands that are getting into it as well. So the popular storyline has really taken off, and as the volume has risen as a result of that. So already we're at 10 billion. I don't see any slowdown in the NFT space, especially as the metaverse and the gaming aspect really start to take hold. So let's talk a little bit about what the market composition looks like. On the left-hand side, this is the market cap of the top contributors in the NFT space. This is across several different marketplaces. CryptoPunks was one of the sort of the OGs, right, of the NFT space. We're not going to talk about CryptoKitties, although that was even before CryptoPunks. But the CryptoPunk collection, as well as the Bored Ape Yacht Club collection, they themselves have become brands now at this point. And I know people thought it was silly. It's like, oh, this picture of a pixel. But those communities that developed around it have really cultivated an enormous swell of influence and an enormous amount of value as a result of that. And I believe Bored Apes are now partnering with Adidas now to come out with lines of merchandise as well. But there's also, like I said, NBA Top Shot, as well as several other collections. One of the interesting developments that I've seen in the last quarter or two in NFTs is the fractionalization NFT market, and it's grown considerably. And there's a few projects out there that provide either fractionalized ownership of particular pieces, or they have different types of instruments that they employ by having a token. I'll give you an example. Full disclosure, I own this one, all right? But I think it's real, and the reason I own it is because I thought it was neat, so I'm going to share it with you. It was a NFT project called HeadDAO, and it was these pixelated, goofy character heads. But what the project did was the owners of, if you're a token holder and you bought one, you become part of a DAO, which is, for those that weren't on the previous session, that's a decentralized autonomous organization. It's effectively like a blockchain LLC, almost, if you want to think about it like that, as a way to wrap your head around it. And what the DAO's purpose was to take nearly all, I think it was 70 or 80% of the sale proceeds, and put it into a treasury. The treasury's purpose was to then go out and buy other blue chip NFT projects like the Bored Apes, like CryptoPunks. And if you are a holder of that HeadDAO token and you stake it with the DAO, you get received back their own token that represents your fractionalized ownership of that treasury vault. So if you subscribe to the thesis of, hey, this is a new medium of art and I'm interested in art investment, this is a new type of vehicle that you can get into an NFT project that provides you with fractionalized ownership as a result of the sale of that project. So I thought that was very interesting. And certainly I think these types of projects are driving an enormous amount of liquidity and additional interest into the market as well, where you could have fractionalized ownership of items through NFTs. And the purpose of that NFT project in and of itself was to create this brand new type of financial instrument. All right, so let's talk about getting started for a minute. So an NFT, when it's created, it's the nomenclature for it is minted. And like I said before, it can represent a tangible or an intangible item, like a digital item. The first thing you're going to need to do is get a digital wallet that's allows you to purchase and store NFTs. Coinbase, which is probably the most popular wallet or exchange solution here in our group, and I'm going out on a limb saying that, but I think it's probably true, doesn't have an NFT platform yet, but they're building one, and they've been pretty vocal about it. So if you have Coinbase right now, you're not going to be able to buy an NFT on Coinbase. So you're going to need to get a wallet that's compatible with some of the major NFT platforms. One of which is highly popular is MetaMask. So MetaMask is available as a plugin on your web browser, and you got to use either Firefox or Chrome. It doesn't work with Safari. Or it's also available as an app on your phone. That's for Ethereum-based cryptocurrencies, which are still the dominant type of cryptocurrency, the dominant type Ethereum-based NFTs. So which is still the dominant type of NFTs in the market today. Now, a good rule of thumb, I'm going to harken back to a few of the security things that we talked about in a couple sessions ago. Because it's a new cryptocurrency wallet, if you get MetaMask and you didn't have an account before, you're going to set up a new wallet. You're going to get a recovery seed phrase, right? Remember back to our security practices. You want to put that down, write that down somewhere safe. You don't want to store it in a text message. You don't want to store it in your email, right? That's the keys to your wallet, right? So you want to make sure that you take adequate security, procedures when you go on and do that. And then from there, once you get that set up, you can MetaMask actually allows you to buy a small amount of Ethereum via Apple Pay, and if you want to also connect your debit card, or you can just move it over from your Coinbase wallet or whatever that you have. So there's a few different places in which you can get NFTs. Let me walk you through sort of the life cycle of most NFT collections. Most NFT collections start off with a sale, an origination sale. Sometimes they have a pre-sale, but they'll have some marketing. And marketing, by the way, let me dovetail and go on a detour for marketing for a second. The conversations happen in community and social-based platforms. That's where a significant amount of the conversations happen. So with that, you got to be wary of are you getting accurate information? But a significant amount of NFT conversations happen on Discord. So Discord, oftentimes NFT projects will have their own Discord server. If you're not familiar with Discord, I'd suggest that you download it, play around with it. It's another social platform. I mean, obviously there's a lot of NFT marketing activity on Twitter, but Discord is where a project will house official announcements. It's where the project will have official links. It's where they'll have, an official chat with folks that are wanting to learn more about the project. And oftentimes there's going to be several weeks or more of marketing and conversation to tell people about the project, provide the roadmap to the project, talk about the people that might be behind the project, what the project's for. And then from there, they'll have an official link of where the sale is going to happen. Now, that's the other thing too. We'll talk about this in risk. You always want to double check and make sure that you're on the official Discord channel or Discord server, and that you've got the right links. There's a lot of scams that happen, and people trying to make copycat sites so that you buy from them and get nothing back. So that's one of the security precautions that we'll talk about in a little bit. Generally, what happens is there'll be a sale time, and that will open up to the public your ability to go ahead and buy one. Now, the project's going to put a initial price at whatever they've been advertising it at. So, they can vary. And things, I'm going to use Ethereum as the example, just because it's the one that I use most. But it could Could be 0.01 Ethereum, could be 0.03. I've seen it all the way up to 0.3. I've seen it all the way up to a full Ethereum. Most aren't that expensive. Like most, on average, I'd say somewhere between 0.03 and 0.08 Ethereum. So like, $200 or $300, depending, is what I've seen as a pretty typical, initial price for a project to get an NFT. So what you're going to need to do is you're going to go to that project sale site, and when the mint is open, you'll be asked to connect your wallet. And if you have the extension plug-in for MetaMask on your browser, it'll prompt you, and you'll need to sign an authentication button that connects your wallet to allow you to go ahead and make the purchase. Now, for those of you that have interacted with Ethereum, do have to be wary of gas fees. And gas fees in the last week or two have actually been pretty reasonable. But as the Ethereum network started to get more congested, gas fees, especially when there's like a big sale and everybody's on that one project all at once, can sometimes spike, and you can reject the transaction if it's too much. But the gas fee issue is really what gave birth to a lot of these other types of platforms, like Solana and Tezos and Wax being very popular as an alternative. But that's one of the transaction charges that you're going to have to negotiate and decide if you want to go through with, is whatever the gas fee is, for that moment to make that sale. Now, once you've done that, you can go ahead, and a lot of projects then have their collection be available on the secondary market, and you can start your journey on the secondary market. So some popular NFT marketplaces are OpenSea. It's my personal favorite. There's Rarible. There's Nifty Gateway, which is owned by Gemini. There's also Foundation, which is the triangle, circle, and the square that you see down there. And you're going to do the same thing. You're going to connect your MetaMask wallet, when you go log into those sites, and then it's sort of like an auction. There's auction capabilities. You can buy it now. You can bid on something. You can browse collections, and collections can be art pieces. They can be collectibles. They can be all sorts of things. They can be game pieces in a metaverse game. They can be Ethereum-based ENS domains. So there's a variety of different ways in which you can cultivate and browse through collections. Some will be verified, and they have a little check mark next to them with a blue check mark if it's an OpenSea verified collection that OpenSea has gone through some due diligence process with the project's team, and this is a verified collection. And if you've gone ahead and purchased one on like a mint sale, you can go ahead and sell it there too. All you got to do is list your item for sale, and you can specify the time, duration that you want to list it for sale, and the amount, or you can set up an auction as well. Now, here's the other thing. I get this question a lot. Well, looks like a JPEG. How about I just right click it? Now I own it. Can I make that an NFT? All right, so let's go back to what blockchain does. Blockchain provides authenticity and proof of ownership in an immutable fashion. I can go ahead and make a Monet print. I could go to a museum and take a picture of it. I can go buy a poster rendition of it, but that doesn't mean that then I own that Monet. All right. So you really got to think about it like that. It's like I can go ahead and take a picture of the Mona Lisa, and I can right click and save it on my desktop if I Google search Mona Lisa, but it doesn't mean I own the Mona Lisa. Now, copyright too is an issue. Depending on the collection, yes, we're gonna go right into that. IP depends on the collection. Some collections don't provide you direct copyright or intellectual property. You just happen to own it. Doesn't mean that you can resell it, but some of the collections specify if you can do anything you want with it. Others have IP restrictions. So if I bought a CryptoPunk, for instance, I couldn't go create my own personal line of T-shirts with that CryptoPunk on it and sell them necessarily, or else I'd probably get a nasty gram from their attorneys. However, there's other collections out there that say you can do whatever you want with it, and that's built. Those are are built into the metadata often, or built into the smart contract of what type of IP rights you have, or what type of reproduction rights you have. I'd say most of them out there don't really have much of a restriction built into it, but some of the larger projects or some well-established artists do. that, yeah, you can own that piece, but that doesn't mean that it gives you the right to go make reproductions of that piece. So think about, back to your, like the real world analogies. If you bought a painting at Sotheby's, say you bought a Banksy, that doesn't mean that you now have reproduction rights to Banksy's reproduction of that work, and you can go make a bunch of prints of it and go sell it on your own, and Banksy doesn't participate in that. It just happens to mean you own that piece, but doesn't mean that necessarily you own the IP around that. And there's I assume there's going to be some more legal cases, and as this starts to develop a bit more precedent. But that's how it stands now, is that just because you own the piece doesn't give you IP, complete IP over it, and doesn't give you reproduction rights over it. All right, so let's get into NFT use cases for a moment, because there's a lot of them. All right, we talked about art and media, and we talked about fractionalized art ownership. You can do the same with music. You can imagine for a moment that a well-known recording artist wanted to release an album, and that it would only be released to NFT token holders. Right, so you can have fractionalized ownership of art and media, as well as gaming and metaverses. All right, so in-game purchases and gaming itself has become big, and it's the market has grown just exponentially over the last several years as esports has taken off, as play-to-earn games have taken off. And those avatars within the game and those in-game assets themselves have value. And that value is captured and represented with an NFT, oftentimes. Now, even the land itself. So if you take a look at Decentraland or the Sandbox, the Sandbox, which is this metaverse where you can buy plots of land in this virtual world. And there's a significant number of brands that are doing it. There's even I'd say state actors that are doing this now too. News organizations are buying plots of digital land in these metaverses, and that ownership of that plot of land, it's represented as an NFT. Now, expanding a little bit further, back to my analogy early on about how this was really a translation of consumer rewards or consumer loyalty programs. Because they're unique, things like tickets, events, memberships, these can all be represented as an NFT. So think if you go to a concert and the concert is, the ticket is distributed as an NFT, different tiers within that can give you access to different types of the concert. Maybe some are VIP, some are not. Maybe some include the drinks, maybe some don't. You retain that NFT as like your memorabilia from attending the concert. You could even say, hey, look, if you get this tier of NFT for this concert, you can participate in some of the revenue that came through. And there's been a lot of artists that have started to explore that possibility as well. So this is a new way of engaging and sharing back with your fan base. And fans are really finding this very attractive, in a lot of different ways. Now, real estate, physical items. So NFTs, like I said before, can represent, not just be the actual digital item, but they can represent ownership of a physical item. How many of you ever closed on a house and went through the litany of paperwork and stacks and certifications and deeds and all of that? Those are all contracts. Those can all be represented on a blockchain. So not only are real estate attorneys are looking at this. I know for a fact, they talk to me all the time about it. But real estate has enormous potential to really start to, dive in and grasp some of the concepts of an NFT, of what this could mean. It could mean a loan note, right? It could be represented as an NFT. Also, like a REIT or fractionalized ownership of rental properties, where your fractionalized ownership of the rental property is represented as an NFT, but you can buy and trade, and you can trade that NFT, and it creates an enormous amount of liquidity where there otherwise wasn't as much liquidity available in real estate. So it has enormous potential in real estate. Also with, yes, we're going to talk about securities laws because you'd be careful about that. Regulators are still trying to grapple with this as well. So there's like the utility aspect, and then there's the security aspect, and it's kind of a gray line. It's kind of not a gray line. So, this is one of the things that projects need to navigate is the regulatory issues, making sure that they're not providing insecurity. And if they are, they're following appropriate security laws. So let's talk about digital identity and item authentication. So utility NFTs really fit very well into the trajectory of digital self-sovereignty. And this is a concept of like, do you own your own data? And there's a lot of ID verification platforms and programs that are looking at NFTs as a way to verify you, so to speak. I doubt that by the time I am all gray, that I will really have like a physical license that's not backed by some sort of non-fungible token on a blockchain, even your passport. I almost guarantee that at some point in the next like decade or so, you're going to see that shift start to happen. I think that a lot of that is going to hopefully start to happen with your health records as well. It's a better and more efficient way of securely storing your health data, where you can pick and choose who has access to your health data and how long they have access to and for what. But EHR, electronic health records, platforms and projects are already starting to look at blockchain and utilizing NFTs as a way to identify patients and identify or patient data. So keep an eye out for that in the healthcare space. Also, digitization of collectibles, like we talked about earlier. NBA Top Shot. If you haven't heard of NBA Top Shot, Google it after we get done here today. But the NBA was really quick to grab onto this concept. And back again to if you've ever had collectibles, there's investors for that, and there's a like a value that's like this is what it's supposed to be worth, and there's a sentimental value to these as well. But these can all be represented through NFTs. Disney has gotten into NFTs on a platform called Vive, where they're releasing memorabilia from Disney Disney movies and other types of Disney assets. Marvel Comics is getting into this as well, where they're releasing, Marvel and DC are releasing memorabilia, mementos, collectibles, even digital representations of previous release comics on a variety of different platforms. So the collectibles market is a fascinating one to me. I collect a lot of sports memorabilia, so I've always been sort of keen to that. But that's one of the easier ones I think to grasp is understanding where NFTs can fit. All right, let's talk about risks. Yes, legal and regulatory challenges. There's some projects are clear on the IP, others are not. And we're going to see litigation in a variety of different ways, but that's only going to set legal precedent to make it clear for everybody else. And the regulators too are still trying to grapple with this as well. And I'm not going to say that there haven't been projects that have skirted those, but regulators are starting to warm up to it a bit. So there are regulatory challenges as well. There's evaluation challenges, right? Just because you think it's worth something doesn't mean it's exactly worth something. At the end of the day, these are not fungible. I can't just quickly go exchange it. In order for me to sell it, there's got to be a buyer. So there's there's more risk in that, of course. Think akin to like a piece of art. Just because you have a piece of art and like something similar did X amount of dollars doesn't mean you're going to be able to quickly get liquidity and find that seller as well. And there's also smart contract risk, right? So that's why it's always good to make sure that you are doing your due diligence on projects. I shy away from any type of project that I can't verify who's doing it. There have been a variety of projects that have popped up where people are using, just their Twitter profile and they're an influencer, but I don't know who that person is. I can't find their real name. I don't know. I always look twice, 3 times, or maybe just not at all at those types of projects. So, be mindful of that there's a lot of bad actors everywhere, but especially in new spaces like crypto and the newer space within that, NFTs, there's a lot of people looking to take advantage of folks that are just getting into it. So, verify, validate, do your due diligence on any type of project. There can always be, mistakes made in the smart contract. There can always be purposeful mistakes made in a smart contract. So, take extra care in your considerations and looking at projects that you might be interested in. Like I said, back to the liquidity aspect. Just because you bought something doesn't mean you can easily turn around right and sell it. Even if you sell it low, you got to find a buyer, and there's lots of NFT projects out there. On top of that, you're buying it with an asset that's also kind of volatile, right? You're buying it and pricing it in Ethereum. Well, Ethereum also moves every single day. So you got to take that into consideration as well. So there's a bit of a compounded liquidity risk that you need to consider, when diving into NFTs. Tax. All right, the tax man cometh. So yes, NFTs are subject to tax laws. So if you have bought and sold an NFT and made some money, you've incurred a tax liability. Now, taxable events. Selling an NFT for cryptocurrency is a taxable event. Purchasing an NFT with a cryptocurrency can be a taxable event. Trading another NFT for another NFT could potentially be a taxable event. Now, creating an NFT in and of itself isn't a taxable event. I've created a bunch of them. Just upload my art and mint it on the blockchain. And I do it, by the way. I'm not going to shill any of my own projects, but I definitely have created a bunch. However, selling an NFT is considered a taxable event, right? If it's a profit, it's going to be considered income. If you sell it at a loss, it would be a capital loss. Now, the IRS has not, to my best of my knowledge, has not taken a formal stance on the tax treatment of NFTs. I've talked to a variety of different tax professionals, and I've heard a bit of a, not conflicting advice, but either that it's going to either fall under capital gains or tax at the collectible tax rate, which is a bit higher. So consult your tax professional, but don't think that you're not going to get away with not paying taxes on NFTs. But they are taxable events, just like your cryptocurrencies are as well. And regulators are starting to wrap their arms around it, to make sure that they're collecting the revenue that that's due. So make sure you're keeping track. You can't always expect to look back in your transactions. I keep a separate log of my NFT transactions, just so I'm also recording my gas purchases or like the gas fees I might incur. So it's a good idea. If you want to buy some, keep track of it somewhere. Don't be lazy about it, but you want to make sure that you're straight. You're straight with the regulators and straight with the tax authorities. All right, let's talk about what's next for NFTs. This is where I get really excited. So I anticipate we're going to see continued adoption, both at the retail level, because we have a bunch of folks here that are learning about them for the first time, as well as at the institutional level. There's a variety of different institutions that are looking at NFTs in a variety of different ways. Family offices oftentimes have high net worth individuals or high net worth families that have pretty substantial art collections, or they have pretty substantial collections of other types of assets that the ownership of which can be recorded on a blockchain. And I can tell you they're starting to look, and they're starting to figure out how best to serve their clients that have these types of items in order to monetize them and retain and lock value. So I anticipate additional institutional adoption, as well as additional brand adoption, corporate adoption of NFTs. I see a little bit further beyond that, and when the enterprise starts doing that for authentication purposes as well, and certifications and licenses, and as well as ID. I think one of the most important things or developments that is happening that I anticipate only moving forward at a quicker pace is cross-chain interoperability. Now, there's a variety of projects that are taking different approaches to this. There's one called Pixelbeast, which was an NFT project that was started by a partner at Unchained or Untapped VC, and it was these little pixel creatures. But what it offered was the first wallet-to-wallet messaging system. So you're going to see more interoperability. That's just an Ethereum interoperability. But as the metaverses start to expand, and as you have like these platforms that are growing, that are designed to house NFT interaction, you're going to see additional cross-chain interoperability projects start to emerge as this fractionalized place starts to come together and get sewn together. One of the areas that we've been looking at has been in virtual reality. And yes, this kind of also ties into the metaverse, but virtual reality studios, virtual reality games are starting now to incorporate NFTs into their gameplay and their game design, because what they discovered with a project called Veil that we have a lot of knowledge about is that they had this VR game, and it was a high-end VR studio, and it was one of these shooter games. But what they discovered as people started playing the game is that people were socializing and interacting within the game far more than they were playing the game. So they'd go in like the hangout room, or they'd have long conversations with groups, rather than they were using it almost as like a social platform. So there's a variety of different ways in which you can provide value in that type of forum. Whether it's like access to certain areas, or whether it's access to clubs or chats. So VR, I think, is going to have a huge role as NFTs, the NFTs start to mature. So like we talked about metaverses, contemporary art. All right, so like I'm sure you guys have seen some of the Beeple, right? Beeple. He's I'm going to put it in the chat so you guys can look him up. He has made a lot of headway. He's been a digital artist for a long time, but he really got into NFTs like about a little over a year ago, and has sold some of his work for just astronomical amounts of money. However, the contemporary art world is a little slower at this and moving, not quite with the same amount of grace or speed. However, they're starting to. I was talking to Kenny Shatter, who's a professor of art history at University of Zurich. He also writes for artcritic.com. And, he was lamenting about this as well. But slowly but surely, contemporary artists are starting to discover that this is a new way to reach different types of audiences. One of the challenges I see in that is educating their audience on why should I buy an NFT, right? Oftentimes some of these art collectors aren't into crypto yet to begin with. So you have two educational hurdles. You have the hurdle of educating them about digital assets, and then you have the hurdle of okay, this is how you would get an NFT version of my work, but it's happening. So I see the contemporary art world, starting to really wrap their arms around this as well, and a little bit more than they have in the past as this started to emerge. But we're also seeing NFTs as brands. Like Bored Apes now partnered with Adidas, and Nike is coming out, with their virtual NFTs. Which if you want a pair of sneaker collection is big. You might laugh, but it's huge. There's a lot of people that collect sneakers, and now Nike has figured out, hey, we should have an NFT associated with you. You own this sneaker in real life, you get the NFT that goes along with it, and they're starting to partner with some notable NFT projects, brands like that, and celebrities like Steve Aoki, who's DJ, Shaquille O'Neal, Snoop Dogg, are starting to realize that aligning themselves with these NFTs that have really stood out as brands provides an enormous platform for them to reach their core audience as well. So there's a lot in store. This is if you think crypto is fast moving, I think the NFT space is lightning fast, and there's a lot of there's an enormous amount of opportunity. There's certainly a decent amount of risk, but it's a fascinating space, and it really has a lot more touch points. And the one thing I want everyone to sort of get out of today's session is that NFTs have a variety of use cases, way more than just a digital image or digital representation. And some of the projects are great. So Boss Beauties, I happen to own that one. That's partnered with Marvel now. And what they're doing is they've taken a good chunk of their initial sales, as well as a high percentage of their royalties, and it goes to women's empowerment initiatives. There's a variety of others like charity and cause-based NFT projects that are very worthwhile, and which allows people that want to participate to really feel like they are participating in a meaningful way and funding projects that they feel are important to them. So it's a way for brands, artists, causes, and projects to create and connect in a way like they never have before. So like I said, they don't come without risk, but the NFTs have an enormous amount of potential to become a really powerful force in what I believe is the overall digital asset adoption story, because it does have so many different unique touch points and use cases. And I can go into this for a long time, but we are coming up on our time now, and I do want to thank you guys for sticking with me on this. On session 2, on level 2, when we get into this in 2022, I'm going to have a few courses on NFTs specifically, and I have already talked to some folks that are going to be some fantastic guests to really go into it a little bit more in detail. But I wanted to give everyone a broad sort of overview, just so you start to understand and start to do your own journeys as well. So, but thank you very much.
Thank you, Jahan. That was excellent. And I just want to end with another poll here before we jump into some questions. So just wanted to kind of get people's perception of how they perceive NFTs. It would be interesting to hear. And also, has that changed since you started and watched this webinar? So let's see. Is that coming in? I don't know. We might have an issue with the polls. Do you see that?
How do I don't see the results, but I see them.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Here they come in. Okay.
Don't be shy, guys.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Well, that's good. A lot of people believe NFTs are the future. So there you go.
All right, good. I do too.
Okay. Let's jump into some of the questions. I know that there were a couple of questions on IP laws, but I think you addressed some of those. If you see some of the questions coming in here too, someone's OpenSea is launching an NFT project on OpenSea. You have any comments on OpenSea? What's your thoughts on that one?
Well, I wish you the best of luck. I love OpenSea. It's a great marketplace. If you already have a dedicated group of folks that follow your stuff, or that happen to find it, I wish everyone the best of luck when they sell their stuff. But it's kind of the top tier marketplaces, so I'm definitely a big fan of OpenSea. I see. Do I have any favorite places to go for news, crypto news? Well, I follow all the major crypto news outlets, and they all have now sort of a dedicated NFT section. One tool that I like is a tool called Icy Tools. icy.tools, and you need to connect your MetaMask wallet to it. There's a subscription to it. I buy it because I collect a lot of NFTs, but it gives you real deep, rich analysis and insight into the actual sales. How like the blockchain, right? It's very it's incredibly transparent, so you can see what collection the floor prices are on different collections, what the pricing trends have been on different collections, what's trending in terms of sales and volume. And the way, if you're really going to get into it, I give people like two kind of like lanes of advice. If you're going to buy art, don't buy art to flip it. All right. You're probably going to get burned. I buy the art ones because they're generally something I like. And I've made, I have them in my house, and you can actually, you can buy a frame. It's called Token Frame. And you can connect your wallet to it. It's like a glass frame, and you can display your NFTs, and it's really cool. So, be mindful of that. If you're just looking for a quick flip, this is probably not something for you. So, I would definitely take extra care and precaution with that. So.
Jahan, I'd be curious to hear what you think about, there's creating NFTs out of, let's say, your own artwork, if you're an artist or a musician, something like that. And then, buying and purchasing in the market that's being created of NFTs. Which do you think is going to be most lucrative for people to pursue?
I'm sorry, can you say it one more time?
So there's an opportunity to buy and sell NFTs in these marketplaces that are emerging, but there's also an opportunity for people to create and design their own NFTs. Let's say they're an artist or a musician. Would you recommend that as a strategy for people? Do you think that that's an avenue for monetization in the future for people to pursue?
Yeah, it can be. I would just say that you should kind of understand your community. If you're an artist and you've got fans, you should understand what they might need to themselves understand the NFT space. I've run into a few projects like this where we've advised on NFT projects where it's easy to market NFTs to a crypto-oriented crowd. It's not so easy to market NFTs to people that haven't really even subscribed to the digital asset investment thesis yet. So there's like two levels of education. So it certainly provides a pathway. I think we still got a little bit of work to do, though.
And here's some really interesting questions that are now coming in too. One, are some marketplaces more user-friendly than others? And also, are they charging more fees? Like which do you see as a comparative analysis of that?
Yeah, I mean, the fees are fairly transparent. So OpenSea's got a fee, I think it's like 2.5%. And like each project has its own royalty fee, where the project creator will get a percentage of royalty, and it's stated right there when you go to sell something back on any secondary sales. But I find OpenSea to be very friendly. I find Nifty Gateway to be very friendly, Rarible to be very friendly. The Solana ones, there's a lot of them now, are just, I think, almost there. But there's a handful of ones that I would recommend. But stick the same thing. The same advice I gave on crypto exchanges, major in the majors. Right, because at the end of the day, you're going to want to go to the marketplace where there's other buyers if you're trying to sell something. So go to the big ones.
Yeah, and here's an interesting question, and maybe this could be addressed next week's session, the final session, when you talk about more of the regulatory landscape. But one question is, how are they not securities?
That's a question regulators are asking right now.
Yeah,
and there's a lot of projects that are kind of skirting around that. So in our navigating the regulatory landscape, we're going to talk about that a little bit, this between security and utility. So I'm going to bring in a couple extra resources to help answer that question as clearly as we can. But it does, and some of these projects are walking a fine line between that. So that's that's definition that the regulators need to provide a bit more on. What exactly is the benefit? Are you getting like money back? Then it definitely is a royalty stream. Then you definitely can be considered a security. It's hard to get around that. But if it's other types of utility or access that doesn't have so to speak a defined monetary value, then maybe not. Maybe it's more of a utility concept.
Here's another interesting question related. Can you assign a royalty stream or revenue stream to a real estate or art NFT without them being securities?
Yeah, that's what we'll get into in our next session. But you can register them as a security and do it properly, and then you'd be fine.
Right. So a couple more questions. See, the prices of NFTs and the gas fees are higher on Ethereum. A chain with really low fees is Solana. But okay, wasn't really a question, but interesting comment anyway there.
Yeah, Solana is definitely like catching up in that, but Ethereum's got a bit of a lead in there. But any of these types of smart contract platforms are going to start to navigate the NFT space. So, and I think as we move further along, we'll see a lot of different types of different platforms that might even provide some type of interoperability. But and gas fees are better as of the last Ethereum upgrade. Just food for thought. But Solana is definitely catching up and becoming an interesting alternative for a lot of different NFT projects. Same with Wax too. It's kind of more of a obscure token as well as Tezos.
Well, would you see Solana as number 2 behind Ethereum and then Tezos, or
I'd say that.
Tezos?
The number 3 slot is still up for grabs. But I'd say Ethereum and Solana seem to have the market share, or the lion's share of the market.
Interesting. Yeah, that'll be an interesting, I think, something to really follow too. Because if you're investing in cryptocurrencies, you kind of want to see which are the protocols that are really involved in this space, because those can be the next big cryptocurrencies.
Could be. So I would definitely keep an eye on it. There's definitely some level of correlation. All right. Cool.
All right. Well, this is Jahan. Yes, you will be able to access this webinar after it ends. We will follow up as always with everyone with a link to watch it on demand. And we hope you could join us next week, Tuesday, December 21st, and at 2 p.m., same time as today, 2 p.m. Eastern. And that's where it's going to focus, really take a much deeper dive into this whole regulatory landscape. And I think that'll be a really interesting discussion next week. But everyone, we will send you all details. And remember, in your handout section here, you're welcome to download the presentation. It's all available to you right on your screen here.
All right. Well, thank you very much, everybody. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.